Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm finally dropping my review of Avatar Fire and Ash after seeing it twice now and letting it marinate in my brain for some time. I can confidently say that this is a beautifully made, solid movie. It does enough to keep me engaged in the world of Toruk Makto and his family and the rest of the inhabitants of Pandora. With this video, since it's coming out so late, I'm going to assume that you've seen it by now, so it won't be as spoiler free in this one. So without further ado, let's jump back into the world of Pandora and let's talk about what makes this movie so good. Okay, so starting off, I think the cast has such a deep level of understanding as to how it means to be a family. What I mean by that is the challenges that they face and how they deal with them as a family feel real. You'd hope that with this being the third film in the franchise and the second film that includes the Sullys as a family, that James Cameron would know how to convey the real familial struggles of not feeling accepted, grief from loss, and trying to find out your purpose in life. And in this movie, he does understand that complex family dynamic, and that's why it feels so believable. I feel like the characters in this movie all get their time to shine equally as we continue to explore them, their beliefs, and the way in which they see and interact with the world. I could see this being a real family dynamic that exists in the real world, and that bridge between the screen and our reality is what the movies are all about. It's part of the reason why we go in the first place, to see people like us, or even not so like us, deal with complex issues that we either grow or learn from. James Cameron is a master storyteller, and the narrative he crafts works so beautifully to continue the story. Going further, what I liked about this movie this time around is the stronger emphasis on the villain characters. Una Chaplin as Varong steals the show every time she's on screen. The sexy, queen-like nature of her walk and the way she talks kept my eyes glued to the screen, even when I was being thrown around like a rag doll when I saw it in 4DX. She has almost all of the energized battle scenes, and when she's not there, you're just waiting until you can see her next. She's easily the best addition to this movie, and I can't wait to see her come back in part 4, and hopefully even part 5 too. Like, she was that good. By herself, she's a fearsome leader, and when she teams up with Quaritch, their dynamic is near unstoppable. I'm sure you've seen the clips of it by now, but that scene in the hut between Varong and Quaritch was not only a masterpiece from a cinematic standing, but the understanding that these two villains have for each other was so impacting for their characters as well. I love the trippy psychedelic nature of that scene, and it was really one of the best scenes in the whole movie. Towards the second half of the film, when Quaritch fully embraces the Ash people and their way of life, it doesn't make for a drastic reaction from the audience, because it makes sense. He's being ridiculed by his own kind for disobeying his superiors, and now, here's this clan with the queen who already sees me as a strong leader, and we want the same things, so I'll just join them instead. I think James Cameron does a great job at making things make sense. The story is easy to follow, and that's what makes it so accessible. You have your clear good guys and your clear bad guys, and the dynamic between their interactions is what drives the story forward. Alright, next, I'm going to talk about the visuals of this movie, because holy shit. So I got to see this movie in both IMAX 3D and in 4DX standard 3D, and both times I was just beyond blown at what I was witnessing. Side note, if it is still playing in theaters by the time you watch this, then it is absolutely worth seeing it in 4DX. The flying scenes, the action, and the environmental movements made for an even more immersive experience that I only get to see once. This film is without a doubt the best looking movie ever made as far as realism goes. No movie released so far can compare to how gorgeous this thing looks. From the skin textures of the characters, the whale-like animals, which were rich with history and language, to even the clarity of the water. It would ripple when the creature spoke, showing how sound would travel through the water and giving it context as to how they could be understood. Every element of the visuals were expertly conveyed, and I was extremely impressed. Even the human characters looked enhanced when they're using their holograms and they've got their big battleships. This movie is visual perfection. I think what I love the most about this movie was the lighting. There are multiple times when someone is standing directly in the key light of some of the scenes, like for example the sun, and the way that the light bleeds through their individual strands of hair, over their shoulders, or through trees and the leaves. It just made me go, wow. Or even at night, when you can see the small fluorescent glow of the Na'vi pulsing through the darkness. The rich lighting makes me want to paint my skin blue and run around hissing at people. The sound design was pretty cool too. Whenever the characters would do a tribal war cry or shoot an arrow or gun, you could hear the clear atmospheric sense of where the shot was coming from and where it was going. With that being said, the camera work was pretty good too. As far as the camera feeling like the character in the story, I would say that happens sometimes, but not as often as I would like. There are times when you can see the characters popping out behind the trees in the back that I loved, or even Neytiri's whole scene where she rescues Jake. I thought that's where the camera work really came to life. Those small POV shots of characters flying on their Ikrans that look really unique as well. Now, I've seen some of the behind the scenes work of the performance capture, and I've got to say that everyone really brought their A game. Jack Champion as Spider did a phenomenal job of basically solo acting as if he's with the other characters in the scene, but at most times they really weren't there. They were all shot at different times and made to look like they were together, but the blending of those two separate shots just made it seem like everything was happening at the same time. And again, that's just a testament to the editing work of this movie. Going back to what I briefly mentioned earlier, I think the water in this movie is insane. A lot of it is all mathematically simulated, which is another mindfuck in itself, but the clarity and the way in which it interacts with the characters as they move through it just really sealed the deal for this being the best looking movie of all time so far. Now, while I am giving the movie a lot of praise so far, I will note that at times the movie does go into this kind of ultra high frame rate mode at times, which was a little jarring at times. I'm sure the average person probably wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I did notice it quite a few times. The movie would look like this ultra high realistic video game or something, and then it would go back to normal. It usually ended with an editing cut, but I'm certain that it was there because I noticed it in both my viewings of the movie. I guess we'll have to wait for the movie to be out digitally to be picked apart, but I'm sure someone else had to notice it. Lastly, I want to talk about the 3D in this movie. Obviously, I'm going to say that the 3D is the best looking 3D that there has ever been, because it is. The new way in which James Cameron allows the environment to bleed through the screen was so immersive and compelling. I haven't seen or heard anyone complain about the 3D motion sickness, so that for me goes to show how natural it looked. The environment really did pop, and while nothing is coming at you like how it used to, I do think that the atmosphere it provided was truly amazing. The only downside to this is that I feel like it's only going to be limited to the theaters. If I wanted to watch this movie in, say, 2 to 3 years' time, I wouldn't get the same effect as most people don't own 3D TVs. It's a shame that for now, that experience can only be had in a theater, unless I go out and buy a 3D TV of my own. Now, I have a high-quality OLED, so I'm going to be getting great visuals no matter what, but it sucks that 3D technology isn't incorporated into modern televisions anymore. Lastly, as far as the score goes, it was pretty simple. I only ever noticed the music when it was during an action scene, and while that's going on, I'm not really listening to what's going on with the music. So nothing to really note there, unfortunately. The music in the movie was okay. Alright, I will stop gushing about the visuals of this movie, and now I can talk about some of the stuff that I didn't really like, because believe it or not, I didn't actually love the movie in its entirety. I was really disappointed with how little the main characters actually grow in this movie. In all honesty, they don't really grow at all. I'm not expecting someone's worldview to change completely, but no one has really seemed to learn from the lessons that they went through in the past movie. Loak is still the same reckless kid, even after accidentally getting his brother killed. Kiri still questions her purpose in life and doesn't really find the answers to all of her questions. She's able to connect with the planet in a way that doesn't really get explored fully. We're left to believe that it is the will of their god, Eywa, but that doesn't really get explained. I think what makes the first two Avatars really succeed is not only their compelling stories, but how each movie so far can be contained and watched almost as a standalone film. With Fire and Ash, they really set up the story in a way that forces you to watch whatever comes next if you want the complete picture. Jake Sully is still the same Marine badass who's trying to look out for his family, but I think his character development has gone as far as it can go, to be honest. For him, I'm not so worried about that because we already know who he is. We've had 2 whole movies to learn with him and grow with him. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future movies he kind of stays the exact same. So again, for Jake, I really don't see his character changing that much. But as far as other characters like Neytiri, obviously, she can learn to accept the human race. But I would love to see her try to lead her people instead of being an active bystander and letting Jake make all the decisions for the family. That all remains to be seen. But the point I'm ultimately trying to get at is that I want to see a growth in each movie. Nobody learns a new perspective or changes their behavior for the better as a result of the lessons learned, and that is the part of the movie that really took it down as a whole for me. Again, almost everyone ends up essentially where they started, and it took them over 3 hours to get there. The movie just kind of feels like a bridge, and I guess that's what most third movies are, in like a sequel this long. But it seems like this movie only exists to connect what comes after it, not as like its own standalone story, which I would like. I mean, I guess it is its own standalone story, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, it feels like a bridge. And of course, I'm still interested to see where the story goes, and you'll definitely catch me at both parts 4 and 5. But I'm looking forward to see how both Quaritch and Varong will inevitably come back. Maybe they'll have a kid of their own, and it'll be a battle of the younglings, but who knows. Now that the big human players are gone for the most part, I hope the story going forward shifts from the human man is bad viewpoint to the interpersonal relationships of the different tribes of Pandora and so on. Alright, with that being said, that comes to the end of my review of the movie. If I were to rank them as a whole, I would honestly go in order of their release. In terms of the story, I think this is actually the weakest one. We don't really get anything new out of this movie except for the villains. The characters remain the same, and there's no new lore that compels the movie to exist. While it was nice to jump back into the world of Avatar, I don't think this movie does enough narratively, as the characters essentially end up where they started, except with a few less members this time. I did love the visuals, of course, and I think the movie should win every award possible for the visuals, because this movie was a cinematic feast. Now, with the last part of the video, I actually want to talk more about that. So being as though this movie is as good looking as it is, I see no reason why the industry as a whole cannot reproduce spectacles of this size. I understand that it takes a lot of money, time, and resources, but look at the payoff that you get. I'm not saying this movie needs to be a 3-hour visual fest, but there's no way that the movies and shows, and I'm looking at you when I say this, Stranger Things, should look as awful as they do sometimes. The technology is here, and it's time to embrace it. If your movie isn't CG heavy, then don't worry about it. But for the big high budget movies like Doomsday, hint hint, then I would expect nothing less than the perfection coming out of this movie. The reason why Avatar works is the high level of craftsmanship necessary to tell this kind of story. The thought to shoot the way of water and fire and ash back to back allows for, one, not a 10-year gap in release to where we forget about the characters and their motivations, but also allows for cohesion in their appearance overall. So we're not left with younger characters coming back looking like full-blown adults between movies. It saves time and creates the hype that drives the sales. It looks so easy on paper, but I'm not a filmmaker yet. So maybe I'm just saying this out of my ass, but I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say I'm tired of waiting 6 to 10 years for the sequel to some narrative only to be let down by how bad it turns out. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that for now. I have a lot more to say, but if a movie or show pisses me off enough to talk about it, then I will. Until then, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Sorry it took so long to come out, but it's finally here. Shout out to everyone, especially my lady, for being my movie buddy and for being there for me, and all of you for tuning in, and an extra special thanks to Dawn for telling me to get off my ass and hurry up with the video. That gave me the courage and motivation I needed to keep going. There's still so many movies I want to see and review, and 2026 is definitely the year for it. I'll see you guys in my next video, and until then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the movie or on any of the other topics I mentioned in the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.